Traoré's convoy was expected to return to Ouagadougou, but hours passed, and the Burkina Faso leader was nowhere to be found. The security team was put on alert. Western intelligence service began generating assassination theories. When Traoré suddenly appeared, 24 hours later, he was smiling. "Nothing to worry about," he told his assistant. "I just signed an agreement that will change the world." The morning had begun. Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, was scheduled to inspect agricultural development projects in the country's eastern provinces. His convoy, 3 armored vehicles, and a security detail had departed the capital at dawn, a deliberate choice. To avoid both Bimide heat and potential Colonel Amada Konate, head of residential security, had personality aversion in the arrangement. The road had been secured, local officials briefed, and the usual counter-surveillance implemented. A standard day of residential duties in a region where security could never be taken for granted. By mid-afternoon, the convoy was expected to begin its return journey to Ouagadougou. The presidential office had already prepared the customary highlighting Traoré's commitment to rural development and sovereignty. His scheduled evening briefing with military leadership was set. But as the afternoon stretched into evening, a troubling realization spread through the presidential palace. No one had heard from Traoré or his convoy since their 11:32 a.m. check-in near the village of "Try again," Kanadi ordered the communications officer, maintaining a calm exterior despite his growing concern. All channels prior to protocols. The response was the same it had been for the past hour: silence. By 8 p.m., what had begun as into a full security crisis. Connaught activated the presidential emergence protocols, mobilizing lieutenants to retrace the convoy's route while maintaining absolute secrecy about the situation. If word leaked that Burkina Faso's president was missing, the political stability of the entire region could be threatened. No communications with foreign agencies. Connaught instruct his deputies. This remains an internal matter until we determine. What Connaught couldn't prevent, however, was the inevitable attention offering intelligence services. In Thymadorn's surveillance ecosystem, the sudden cessation of a presidential convoy's movement rarely went unnoticed for long. In Paris, at the headquarters CEF, the DGSE, France's Foreign Intelligence Service, analyst Sophie Mercier noticed the anomaly while reviewing satellite monitoring of Western Africa. Traoré's convoy stopped here, she informed her supervisor, indicating a point on the digital map near Burkina Faso's eastern border with Niger. They diverted from the planet route approximately 30 minutes earlier, then halted in this remote area. No movement for the past 4 hours. Her supervisor studied the imagery with growing interest. Ibrahim Traoré had been a persistent challenge to France in the region, asserting Sir's sovereignty and reducing French military presence. Any instability in his leadership merited close attention. Notate, section monitor our communications from Burkina Faso military government channels and get me a higher resolution on that location. Similar scenes played out in intelligence centers. From Washington to Beijing, each great power with interest in Africa's Sahel region suddenly alert to the unusual disappearance of one of its most influential leaders. As midnight approached in Ouagadougou, the presidential palace transformed into a crisis command. Military leaders, intelligence circles, and key ministers gathered in the secure conference room, their face grave, as Colonel Connaught delivered his grip. The convoy reached this point, indicated on the tactical map, before communication ceased. Our search teams found the vehicles here, secured and intact, approximately 3 kilometers from the main. No signs of attack, no evidence of mechanical failure. And the president asked Defense Minister Zongo, voicing the question foremost in everyone's mind. No trace, Connaught replied. The security detail is also missing. No blood, no signs of struggle. It's as if these simply walked away from the vehicles. Foreign Minister Yuri leaned forward. Could this be a coup attempt or a foreign abduction? Connaught shook his head. The vehicles were not forced off the road. They were deliberately parked and secured. This August, a planned deviation, not a hostile action. By trial, Ray himself scowls. Zongo incredulous. It appears so. Konate confirmed. The lead driver reports that the president personnel regarded the route change and later instructed them to stop at that. He then directed the entire security detail to accompany him on way described as a short but important tour. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their president had been abducted or assassinated. He had deliberately gone off it, but why and where? The question reverberated behind Burkina Faso's border. By dawn, intelligence agencies across multiple continents were generating theories and scenarios, each filtered through felons of their national interest. In Langley, Virginia, CIA analyst suggested Traoré might be attempting Tovidi assassination, pointing to recent intelligence suggesting French mercenary involvement in regional destabilization. In Beijing, Ministry of State security officials speculated about secret negotiations with Russian operatives regarding mineral rights that China had been pursuing. In Moscow, readership wondered if Traoré was meeting with American officials, potential eyeing Russia's growing influence in the Sahel. The one thing no intelligence service serious look inside was the truth, a possibility too improbable to feature in their analytical framework. As a new day dawned over Ouagadougou, the presidential post remained in crisis mode. Colonel Kennedy had deployed additional units to the eastern border, established emergency communication protocols, and contingency plans for the public remained unaware of the situation, but rumors had begun circulating among diplomatic circles. Then, at precisely 10:17 a.m., almost 24 hours after his disappearance, Ibrahim Traoré walked through the main entrance of the presidential palace as if returning from a routine outing. He wore the same uniform as the previous day, though it appeared slightly dusty. His security detail resumed their posts without explanation. Colonel Konatiner accepted him in the private Tischenberg, his relief at seeing the president alive quickly, giving way to professional concern. Miss President, with all due respect, what happened? The entire security apparatus has been at necessary readiness levels. Traoré interrupted smoothly, which is exactly as it should be. Your response weighs Colonel. He smiled, patting his trusted security chief on the shoulder. Nothing to worry about. I just signed an agreement that will change the world. Before Kone could press forward tales, Traoré continued toward his office, convened the full cabinet in 1 hour, and prepare the secure communications room. We'll need to make some calls to our regional partners immediately. As the stunned colonel watched him walk away, he noticed something unusual. Traoré was carrying Osmo metallic case he hadn't had the previous day, clutching it with a degree of care that suggested extraordinary. Within the hour, the presidential cabinet assembled, their faces showing a mixture of relief and confusion. Traoré entered the room with characteristic confidence, placing the metallic case carefully on the conference table before addressing the assembled officials. I understand Unveiled had a concerning 24 hours, he began, his tone matter-of-fact. That was unavoidable, given the sensitivity of what I'm about to share with you. I opened the case, revealing what apparato be an ordinary tablet computer, an Asmo stack of documents bearing unfamiliar letterheads. Yesterday, Emmett with Werner Kruger. The name hung in the air, producing expressions of disbelief around the table. Werner Kruger was not a head of state or recognized diplomat. He was their reclusive billionaire, founder of Quantum Resources, one of the world's largest private mining and technological angolas, known for its extraction technologies and zealously guarded intellectual property. Kruger has been watching our resource sovereignty initiatives with Traoré continued. Unlike the multinational corporations and their government backers, he sees our approaches potentially advantageous. He activated the tablet, projecting its display onto the room's main screen. What appeared was a detailed geological survey of BurkinaFaso and neighboring. But unlike any survey they had seen before, it showed mineral deposits at depths and concentration that conventional prospecting technology couldn't detect. What you're seeing is the result of quantum proprietary deep scanning technology, Traoré explained. Technology they've never shared with any government or public entity. Finance Minister Kyberlin forward, studying the display with widening eyes. These rare earth deposits, they're at least 5 times larger than our current estimates. 8 times larger, Traoré corrected. And that's just the beginning. He swiped to a new screen, showing a schematic. This is Quantum's exclusive binaural processing system. It achieves 96% extraction efficiency compared to 40-60% of current methods, with minimal environmental impact and energy requirements. The implications were grinnies. Such technology would transform the economics of mineral extraction, making even previously harmful deposits highly valuable and dramatically reducing dependency on foreign processing facilities. Defense Minister Zongo looked skeptic. And Kruger is offering us this technology of generosity. What does he want in return? A partnership, not ownership, Traoré replied. Quantum provides the technology and expertise. We maintain complete sovereignty over our resources that they receive a 15% processing fee. substantially less than the 50–70% that traditional mining corporations demand through their exploitative contracts. Head up to the documents on the table. The agreement is unlike anything offered to an African nation before. No political conditions, no foreign military represents, no external control, just technology, transfer, and fair compensation for innovation. Foreign Minister Euro voiced a question everyone was thinking. Why? Why wouldn't of the world's most powerful corporations offer terms that undermine the entire extractive model Western interests have enforced for centuries? Traoré's expression turned thoughtful. Kruger has his reasons. He's German by birth, but spent his childhood in... His company has been systematically excluded from African markets by the Franco-American corporations that have traditionally done resource extraction here, and has a particular disdain for how Western governments have used their as neo-colonial instrument. He paused, then added, but most importantly, he's a pragmatist. He sees where the future is heading toward resource nationalism and African. Rather than fight these trends, he's positioning to benefit from as the implications of this unprecedented agreement sank in. Questions erupted around the table. How will traditional Western powers respond? What would implementation look like? Could they trust Kruger and his company? Traoré addressed each concern methodically before coming to his most significant revelation. The agreement isn't just with Burkina Faso, he explained. Kruger has offered the same terms to Mali, Niger, Chad, and Guinea. Together, we would form the Sahel Resource Alliance, controlling nearly 60% of the world's strategic rare earth elements and implementing teasing technically beyond anything our partners possess. The room fell silent as the geopolitical wreck. This would trigger back. For decades, Western technological dominance had been built in controlling access to these critical minerals. This agreement threatened to fundamentally alter that dynamic. This is why absolute secrecy was necessary, Traoré concluded. If word had leaked about the meeting, powerful interests would have moved immediately to prevent it. My disappearance was a calculated address to secure our nation's future. Unfamiliar letterheads. Yesterday, I met with Warner Kruger. The name hung in the air, producing expressions of disbelief around the table. Werner Kruger was not a head of state or recognized diplomat. He was their reclusive billionaire, founder of Quantum Resources, one of the world's largest private mining and technological gulas, known for its revolutionary extraction technologies and zealously guarded intellectual property. Kruger has been watching our resource sovereignty initiatives with interest, Traoré continued. Unlike the multinational corporations and their government backers, he sees our approach as potentially advantageous. He activated the tablet, projecting its display onto the room's main screen. What appeared was a detailed geological survey of Burkina Faso and neighboring countries. But unlike any survey they had seen before, it showed mineral deposits at depths and concentration shot conventional prospecting technology couldn't detect what were seen as the result of quantum pro-predated deep scanning technology, Traoré explained. Technology they've ever shared with any government or public entity. Finance Minister Caberlin forward, studying the display with widening eyes. These rare earth deposits, they're at least 5 times larger than our current estimates. 8 times larger, Traoré corrected. And that's just the beginning. He swiped to a new screen showing a complete schematic. This is Quantum's processing system. It achieves 96% extraction efficiency compared to 40–60% of current methods, with minimal environmental impact and energy. Defense Minister Zonga looked skeptical, and Kruger is offering us this technology out of generosity. What does he want in return? A partnership, not ownership. Traoré played. Quantum provides the technology and expertise. We maintain complete sovereignty over our resources. They receive a 15% processing fee, substantially less than the 50–70% that traditional mining corporations demand through their exploitative contracts. Head up the documents on the table. The agreement is unlike anything offered to an African nation before. No political condition, no foreign military presence, no external control. Just technology transfer and fair compensation for innovation. Foreign Minister Euro voiced the question everyone was thinking. Why? Why would one of the world's most powerful corporations offer terms that undermine the entire extractive model Western interests have enforced for centuries? Traoré's expression turned thoughtful. Kruger has his reasons. He's German by birth, but spent his childhood in Tanzania. His company has been systematically excluded from African markets by Franco-American corporations that have a traditionally dominated resource extraction here. And he has a particular disdain for how Western governments have used their corporations. As neo-colonial instrument, he paused, then added, but most importantly, he's a pragmatist. He sees where the future is heading, toward resource nationalism and African aspirations. Rather than fight this trend, he's positioning to benefit from it. As the implications of this unprecedented agreement sank in, questions erupted around the table. How will traditional Western powers respond? What would implementation look like? Could they trust Kruger and his company? Traoré addressed each concern methodically before coming to his most significant revelation. The agreement isn't just with Burkina Faso, he explained. Kruger has offered the same terms to Mali, Niger, Chad, and Guinea. Together, we would form the SA Resource Alliance, controlling nearly 60% of the world's strategic rare earth elements, implementing processing technology being anything our traditional partners passes. The room fell silent as the geopolitical earthquake this would trigger became clear. For decades, Western technological dominance had been built on controlling access to these critical minerals. This agreement threatened to fundamentally alter that dynamic. This is why absolute secrecy was necessary, Traoré concluded. If word had leaked about the meeting, powerful interests would have moved immediately to prevent it. Disappearance was a calculated risk to secure our nation's future. Asked cabinet meeting concluded. Truce clear. Directives preparation form. Implementing the agreement would begin immediately, but would remain classified at the highest level. The other nations would send technical delegations. Within the week, a joint announcement would be coordinated once initial implementation had progressed significantly to be irreversible. What Traoré didn't mention, what only he and Kruger knew, was the catalyst for this unlikely partnership. 3 months earlier, Quantum's advanced scanning technology detected something that changed everything. Beneath the Sahel region lay not just rare earth elements, but what appeared to be the world's largest deposit of an extremely rare mineral crucial for next-generation quantum computing and advanced energy storage. Whoever controlled this resource would have unprecedented leverage in the emerging technological lens of the mid-21st century. In days following Traoré's mysterious rudder, intelligence agencies worldwide attempted to piece together what had happened during his missing was scrutinized, communications sources questioned, but their meeting had been meticulously planned to avoid detection held in an abandoned mining facility whose shielding prevented surveillance. 2 weeks later, observant analysts noted an technical specialists from quantum resources began arriving in Ouagadougou, followed soon after by similar arrivals in Bamio Niamey and Conakry. Specialized equipment was transported under heavy security. Satellite imagery showed new construction beginning, 8 remote sites across the Sahel region. In Paris, the French foreign minister called an emergency meeting with intelligence officials incorporate tellers from their major resource economy. What exactly is Traoré implementing, he demanded, and why are a quantum resources specialists suddenly over the South? The intelligentsia looked uncomfortable. We believe some kind of technology transfer agreement has been reached, but elusive quantum has always been extraordinarily secretive about their proprietary systems. Whatever it is, added the CEO of France's largest mining conglomerate, it appears to be coordinated across multiple country or local sources, report unprecedented security around new facilities, being constructed near major mineral deposits. Contact the Americans, the foreign minister ordered. This could threaten Western access to critical materials. We need a coordinated response, but crafting that response, preventing traditional pressure points, threats of economic isolation, security concerns, political destabilization, effective innocence countries suddenly implementing Tinacla that changed the response. When Mali announced it was reviewing all existing mining contracts with European companies, citing new technical capabilities that fundamentally alter previous feasibility stance. The pattern became clear. 1 month after his disappearance and mysterious return, Ibrahim Traoré addressed his nation in a televised broadcast that was also carried live across the Sahel region. Today, I am announcing the formation of the Sahel Resource Alliance. He began standing against a backdrop showing the flags of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, and Guinea. This historic cooperation between our nations will transform how develop and utilize the natural resources with which our lands have been blessed. He outlined the agreement with quantum resources, emphasizing the unprecedented nature of the technology transfer and the maintenance of full resource sovereignty. For too long, our nations have been told that we lack the technical capacity to develop our own resources, that we must accept comfortable terms from foreign corporations who position themselves as indispensable partners. Today, that narrative ends. The international reaction was immediate and revealing. Western financial publications describe the alliance as destabilizing and potentially harmful to global gains. Chinese state media express a concern about resource nationalism while offering alternative if frameworks. Russian commentators praise the assertion of African sovereignty against Western neocolonialism. Stock prices of traditional Ming conglomerates fell sharply. US investors recognized the threat to their African operation. Quantum Research, privately held, made no public statement, but industry analysts, no dead company, was aggressively hiring specialists in rare earth processing and quantitative geology. 3 months after the formation of the Sahel Resource Alliance, the first results of the new partnership became visible. A processing facility near Ugadu, built in record time using Quantum's modular technology, began producing rare earth unprecedented purity. Similar facilities in partner nations followed shortly thereafter. What shocked international observers wasn't just the speed of implementation, but the new facilities achieved extraction rates that made traditional mid seem primitive by comparison, drastically reducing environmentality while increasing yield. Western mining executives, who had initially dismissed the alliance as unsustainable, their expertise now scrambled to understand what had changed. How had 5 of Africa's poorest nations suddenly leapfrogged decades of technological development? 6 months in TATH implementation, Ibrahim Traoré invited selected international jurists to tour the Ugadu processing facility. The result, despite attempts by Western media to downplay its significance, sent shockwaves through global research. What we witnessed, wrote one respected technology correspondent, represents nothing less than a paradigm shift in mineral processing. The efficiency, environmental profile, and output quality exceed anything currently operating in Western facilities. The operations are staffed and managed entirely by Burkina engineers and technicians after adjustments of training. As the economist implications of the alliance become clear, diplomatic initiatives from traditional powers intensified. The United States offered preferential trade status. France proposed a strategic developed partnership. China suggested infrastructure investments, complementary to current resource development. Traoré and his alliance partners responded with polite but firm consistency. They welcomed fair trade relationships and mutually beneficial partnerships. But the era of external control over their resources was definitively over. 1 year after the fateful 24-hour disappearance that had triggered international concern, Ibrahim Traoré stood with his counterparts from Mali, Niger, Chad, and Guinea at Dinago of the Sahel Resource Management Academy in the state-of-the-art facility funded entirely by proceeds from the alien seas mineral. Exports would train the next generation of African engineers in advanced resource technology. As Winter Kruger joined the African leader's 4th ribbon-cutting ceremony, his first public appearance in years, international observers finally witnessed the partnership that had been formed during those missing. Their exclusive billionaire, normally Aversetto publicity, had made an exception for what he described as the most meaningful application of our technology to date. In his address, Trudeau reflected on the transformation of the past year, when for one day, many feared the worst. Some anticipated a coup, others suspected assassination. No one imagined that those 24 hours would instead mark the beginning of true resource independence for our nations. He gestured to the academy behind him, where African students were already engaged in advanced technical training. This is the real revolution, not just extracting our minerals more efficiently, but building the knowledge and capacity to control our resource for generations to come. The Sahel Resource Alliance would continue to face challenges: political pressure, economic competition, security. Threats from Thalswo's interests were threatened, but the fundamental dynamic had shifted. The technology transfer couldn't be reversed, the knowledge couldn't be learned, and the precedent of successful resource sovereignty couldn't be for Ibrahim Traoré. The gimbo of those missing 24 hours meeting secretly with an unconventional partner, risking international alarm and domestic stability, had achieved what decades of traditional development approaches had failed to deliver: a pathway to genuine economic independence built on African control of African resources. When asked by a journalist whether he had anticipated the far-reaching consequence of his mysterious disappearance, Traoré smiled. Sometime misty, most significant changes begin with a single day, 24 hours that alter the course of history. What neither the journalists nor most of the world yet knew was that the rare earth elements being processed were just the beginning. Beneath the Sahel, the truly revolutionary mineral, the one that will reshape global technology in the coming decades, remained their close-ligarded secret. a foundation for African technologic leadership rather than merely resource provision. The agreement signed during those missing 24-hour shedding just changed the present. It had secured a future where Africa would transition from the world's resource leader to a technological innovator in its own right, all because one leader had disappeared for a day and returned with a smile, saying simply, "I just signed an agreement that will change the